Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Hello, everybody. All right. So, I am going to be talking about what do I have in the title? 7 signs of that you are achieving whatever word I used, ascension. And let me explain to you where this came from. So, I have apprentices, students that, sorry, I'm seeing it in the mirror there. That's what I'm looking for. I have apprentices, students that I've worked with over the years, and what happens very commonly, you will see it on the live stream chats, you'll see it in the questions. What ends up happening is people who are starting to really accomplish things will talk about the uncomfortable feelings that they have. And so they will be asking me, how can they get rid of certain feelings, fears, insecurities? And what ends up happening is you can't tell the difference between what is actually you and what is your unconscious resistance. So when you are achieving ascension, this is some of the things that you're not told in more of the new agey kind of teachings and practices, which they predate on people who are in pain, and they tell people what they want to hear, which is, if you just do this, you will be in bliss and all of your problems will go away and you'll be super happy. And what ends up happening is you end up with a lot of people seeking ascension, moksha, liberation, enlightenment, whatever words you want. And what they're really doing is they're seeking to run away from their pain, and they can't tell the difference. They don't know the difference between running away from their pain and actually achieving liberation. So we have to go back a little bit before I give you the 7 signs of what I call here unconscious programming, common signs of resistance. Before we get into that, we need to understand and accept the assumption and the reality there is this thing called unconscious resistance. So how unconscious resistance comes about is that you are an infinite, perfect soul, completely, perfectly aligned with infinity, with the universe, with the light, with love, with God, whatever words you want to use. That is your soul. That is the state of your soul in infinity before you incarnate. You choose to incarnate. You are never forced into anything. You do not live in an abusive universe, regardless of what the neo-Gnostics will tell you. You do not live in an abusive universe. You live in a universe that is completely 100% totally devoted to loving and supporting you. You, as an infinite soul, you do not grow. You do not experience growth when you are in the state of infinity. When you are in that state in between lives and you are completely lit up with your divine light self, everything is wonderful, but you don't grow. In order to grow, just like if you want to grow big muscles, you have to have resistance. So, when I go to the gym and I push heavy weights, I'm creating resistance on my muscles, and that resistance creates growth. That's the whole idea. So there are some things you're going to seek out. You want to find as much resistance as possible. So imagine being incarnated would be like if you're competing to be a bodybuilder, and every time you walked into the gym, you forgot why you were there. And you started lifting weights, and you're like, why this hurts? This is painful. I don't want to do this. And then somebody has to remind you, oh, you're doing that because you're trying to become Mr. Olympia. Oh yeah, that's right. I want the resistance. That's what happens when you incarnate. You forget. Because if you didn't forget, you wouldn't take this seriously. if you were operating without any resistance whatsoever, if you didn't believe in the Maya, the illusion that you created for yourself, then it would just be the most boring video game ever. So that's your state. You come into this life, you've chosen whatever life you have, and some of you have very difficult, challenging lives. Some of you have been born to very dysfunctional, destructive, narcissistic parents. You live in narcissistic societies. Some of you, whatever it is, you chose that pressure so that your soul could resist that pressure and gain power and wisdom. And so the unconscious programming, sorry, there's so many thoughts going through my head, it's hard for me to focus on the most important ones. The unconscious programming that happens is that when you are a child, depending on how narcissistic, how much reptilian influence, shall we say, is going on in your family or in your society or in your religion or whatever it is, to the degree that you have that kind of narcissistic reptilian influence, this causes trauma to your human brain, to your human psyche, to your emotional state, even your nerves. It causes trauma. In order to survive the trauma, you begin to identify with your abusers, you begin to identify with the illusion, you begin to find ways to fit in, to meet people's abusive demands on you, and you program that. You bring that into your programming, and it becomes second nature to you to be codependent, to kiss people's rear end, to rebel, to be abusive, to be angry, to be controlling, to seek escape through drugs or alcohol, buy into a victim mentality. All of these things are defense mechanisms that you use in what you perceive to be enemy territory in order to be accepted so that you won't be destroyed. All right? So, and as long as you are in that environment, you function that way. Everybody else is functioning like that. They're operating from their reptilian brainstem. They're operating from anger, from fear, from greed, from abuse, control, all of that stuff. And so what ends up happening is when you get out of that, when you become an adult, now you have all of this programming. So you have this conscious awareness, you've had it throughout your life, that you want out, that you want a better life. And so you're drawn to spirituality. So you find a spiritual practice. If you found my channel and you're doing the 90-day challenge, maybe you're my apprentice, you're doing a mantra ritual, you're doing the Qigong, you're doing something on the free channel, I don't care. You're doing something. You're following me, you think that I have something to give you that will be helpful, and you're doing the practices. By the way, just let me take a second. All of you watching me who are not doing the practices, you are missing out big time. You can go into the playlists on the free channel, do something. Do one or more of the practices. Okay? If you're not doing the practices, you're missing out. You're getting 1% of what it is that I'm offering you and what the universe is giving you. Now, I'm specifically talking about the people that are doing the practices. They're either working directly with me or they're doing the 90-day challenge. They're doing the practices and they are starting to transform. They are starting to awaken. And some of them are beginning to see major shifts in their external universe. Okay? So, back up. You're an infinite being of light. Everything is at your fingertips. You have no issues. Everything is bliss. You decide you want to grow. You come to this laboratory called Earth. You put yourself into this body, which is your three-dimensional avatar, and your soul lives in your heart, watching all of this happen. And then you experience whatever pressure life gives you that you've chosen. I went to the gym today and I did back. I did back and shoulders and buys. That's the pressure that I chose to put on my body, and it was painful, and I breathed really heavy, and my muscles burned, and I'm sore and stiff and all of that stuff, and that's what I chose. You chose your family, you chose your country of origin, you chose all of that. Then, in order to survive, you adopted dysfunctional, reptilian behaviors that kept you safe, primarily focused on trying to get love and acceptance from the people around you. You then became an adult. You left your home of origin. Now you're out in the world, but you have programmed your human mind, your human brain, to still do things like have victim mentality, fear, blocks. You may be experiencing health issues. You may have money issues, relationship issues. You still can't escape the pain, even though you're not living with your parents anymore, for example. The pain is still very real. The trauma is still very real, and you relive it. You find relationships and you relive that trauma in new relationships in an unconscious attempt trying to fix it, and it never works. And then you seek out some kind of spiritual practice. If you're very traumatized, like happens a lot, you will come to me or other teachers and you will say, "Can you do an energy healing on me? I just need some energy and then I'll be okay." But what you don't know is that you have created a mechanism inside of you which damages you, which limits you, which brings you misery, poverty, sickness, sadness, pain, fear, doubt, confusion. You have done that because that is what you needed to do to survive, and you don't know how to do anything else. So you come to me and I say, read my book or watch my videos about the shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life. Figure out what your soul desire is, what the Hindus would call your dharma. Find out what your true soul path is, which will be shown to you in connection to something that gives you joy, that gives you excitement, that when you think about it and you feel inspired, even if that inspiration only lasts for 10 seconds or for a whole day, you'll feel inspired by it, and it will make you feel like you can take on the whole world. It will be absolutely amazing. And then you listen to me because your resistance kicks in and says, well, you first have to get the money. Well, first you need to do this. Well, first you need to do that. And I say, no, you don't need to do anything. Get started. Do it now. Start doing it now. You follow my instructions and all of a sudden you get more money. You get more health. You get more resources coming to you that you didn't think you would get. It happens little by little, so maybe it happens so slowly you don't notice it all at once, but when you look back, you realize that you've made huge progress. And then what ends up happening, because you are going towards your soul desire, you become conscious of all of the ways that you have been traumatized. You become conscious of all of the ways that you have been programmed to sabotage yourself. You feel sadness. You feel even more pain. You say, I came here, Mahadeva, so that you would relieve me of my pain, and I have more of it. And I say, I know, but look at your life. Look at how much better your life is. That's true. My life is better, but I have all this pain. And then what will happen is you become aware of that, and then your unconscious resistance really kicks in. Now, I'll tell you what I've seen with varying students. And this is why you always have to be aware of your emotions at all time and the reasons why you are doing things. If you're not aware of your feelings at any given time, you may be seduced by your own unconscious resistance. I have students who follow me, and there are some, I'm not going to give away anybody's personal issues, but there are some students that, I am absolutely, utterly amazed and inspired that they have taken my suggestions. Sometimes it's a crisis, and I say, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to, I'm not going to explain what it is, but things that are very challenging for people to do. That's very frightening, that completely shifts their whole reality. And they do it. And it's like, I don't know that I could do it if I was in their position. And they pull it off. And I'm absolutely inspired. And you prove to me that what I did in my life and what I teach works. And then there are people who have, it's a sliding scale, have varying success. And there are some people that I've worked with who they went at it very hard and they had almost immediate success. And then their unconscious resistance kicked in to such a degree that they ended up leaving. They disappear. I never see them again. And they couldn't give up the relationship. They couldn't give up the job. They couldn't tolerate the shame that they feel as they become more prosperous and successful. So you have to understand that programming is so deeply ingrained in your human psyche, in your brain, that your brain is absolutely committed to keeping you on that because you were convinced at age 4, 5, 6, 7 that if you didn't learn how to become like your reptilian parents, you wouldn't survive. So you trained yourself, and that became cemented into your psyche. And then you come and work with me, and you start to make progress, and then that programming says, oh my God, if this person keeps doing that, they are going to basically, you on a psychological level, it will feel as though you are killing your parents. It's the most horrible experience possible. To understand that, we need to understand what infants need in order to survive. This has been proven over thousands of years. There have been horrific experiments done since the Middle Ages on infants. And what we know for a fact is that the single most important thing to an infant's survival is not food, is not warmth, is not shelter. It is love. It is being touched, being spoken to, being interacted with. That is the most important thing to an infant. Love is the most important thing any human being needs. Without it, we literally will die. Infants, when they do not get enough attention, will die. And it has been proven that if an infant is fed, clothed, kept warm, given the best treatment, but if they are not regularly picked up, touched, loved, talked to, played with, they die. So that is the most important thing, and everything you do in life is based on an unconscious desire at the deepest level of your human psyche to get love, which means that you will sacrifice your health, your sanity, your prosperity in order to get the perception that you are being loved and accepted. And you wonder why there are homeless people. No matter how many times you give them the opportunity to get off the street, they stay on the street. Why there are people who, after they've been taken off of drugs and they've gotten clean, and years later they end up dying of an overdose. Why there are people who, after having survived horrific treatment by abusive partners, will find themselves back and running after abusive people. It's because you want love more than anything else, and unfortunately, you have been misinformed about what love is. It's not rational and it's not conscious. On a conscious level, you know what love is. It's not your conscious understanding that's the problem. It's your unconscious programming. And so when you work with me, even though I'm telling you things like go after your soul desire, here's what you need to do to achieve this, your favorite or your true career path, what will help you have money, all of those things are symbolic of love. And even though that's what I'm telling you to do, and even though you think what I really need to do is get successful and get money and get success, what you really want is love. And that is symbolized by money, that is symbolized by health, it is symbolized by prosperity, by success. All of these things are symbols to your unconscious mind of being loved. Now, if you've been abused, if you have been instrumentalized, which means that your parents, they parentify you, they turn you into the parent, and your job is to parent your parents. Your job is to take care of them. Your job is to meet their needs. Your value is based only on what you do for them. This is called codependence. If that is how you've been trained, then when you interact with the universe based on being loved for who you are at a soul level, your brain will go, stop. This is wrong. You're killing your parents, which means ultimate love. It means you are going to deny yourself the ultimate love of your parents. And this again, now with this in mind, remember my favorite New Testament, really my only New Testament passage that I like, is that Jesus was walking through some village in Galilee, and some Jewish man came running out of his house, and he says, teacher, I want to follow you. And Jesus says, he says, teacher, I want to follow you, but first let me bury my parents. To which Jesus says, let the dead bury themselves. If you aren't willing to reject mother, father, sister, brother for my sake, you're not worthy of me. And Jesus represents the soul in this instance. And that man was very sad. He dropped his head and he walked back in because he knew he couldn't do that. Because in Jewish society, especially back then, you had to bury your parents within 24 hours. And if you didn't do so, you were the worst being that ever lived. He absolutely expected to be praised by Jesus for having him say, what a good Jew you are. You're going to bury your parents. We'll all wait and we'll bury him with you. And he had no idea that Jesus was going to go, those are dead bodies in there. There's nothing there. Don't waste your time with that. If that's more important to you than your soul, then you're not worthy of it. He wasn't expecting that. And so that represents his unconscious resistance. The soul spoke to him, and he said, I want to follow my soul. He said, but first I need to go get a job. But first I need to save some money. But first, I need to get my alcoholic, drug addict husband or wife to approve of it. But first, I need to stay living in my mom's basement for it. But first, I need to just have a few beers. But it's the same thing. I need to bury my parents first. And the soul says, if you're not willing to sacrifice the perceived love of your parents, your spouse, your family, your religion, your community, your society, if you're not willing to sacrifice that perceived love for what your soul wants, then you're not worthy of it. And what that means is that if you continue to deny your soul under the irrational motivation of your unconscious mind, then what ends up happening is you will receive in your experience the projection of your own self-hatred for walking away from your soul, your own anger and rage at walking away from your soul. And that is an intolerable feeling, so you shove it down like you were taught to do as a little kid, and then you will have misery. On some level of the sliding scale, you will have sadness, you will have anger, you will have fear, you will have victim mentality, you will have lack of prosperity, you will have illness. My experience so far, and I'm willing to be wrong because I don't necessarily like the idea, but in my experience so far, having been here almost 60 years and watching people die, watching people get sick, watching them for decades how they live, the people who deny their soul very often end up with age-related illness. They end up with chronic pain. They end up with actual lethal illnesses that kill them. So this is why in my book I say, following your soul desire is a command. It's the only command there is. There aren't 10 commandments. There are only one. And the one commandment is you must follow the command of your soul. If you do not, you will suffer. So with that, now that you understand what we're talking about, let's take a look at the signs of unconscious programming. So these are the signs that you will experience. These are your reactions, your feelings, your states of mind that show you that you are a victim of unconscious programming as you were growing up. First one is judgment. So you judge other people. We all do it. So everything here that I mention is a survival mechanism. It's a defense mechanism that all humans have. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't function. But if you've grown up in a dysfunctional home, it means that it has taken on more than utilitarian use, and it is now a problem, and it causes you pain. And it's a response that you don't have any conscious control over. In fact, you will defend it. So the first one is judgment. This is not it's going to happen in that order. This is just the first one I wrote down. Judgment, which is also called projection. Projection is a psychological word, and it means that you project onto other people your own thoughts and feelings about yourself. So whenever, for instance, whenever somebody comes onto my channel, which happens fairly regularly, and leaves a comment either in the comment section or on the live chat and says, how full of crap I am, I don't know what I'm talking about, I shouldn't be teaching, I think to myself, here's somebody who is destined to be a teacher, and they have all of this doubt and shame about it, about themselves doing it. And so instead of seeing that within themselves, because it's too painful, because they can't follow their programming to get, dysfunctional love that way, they, instead of being aware of it, seeing me being this teacher and openly teaching, it stimulates them. Their first stimulation is, I want to do that too, but they can't tolerate that. And in a split second, it turns into self-hatred, self-judgment. They can't tolerate that, so then they project it onto me. That's why I say almost on a regular basis, instead of wasting your time telling me how I screwed up, why don't you start your own channel? Why don't you tell others? And I mean it. Tell others, even make videos about how screwed up I am and how wrong I am. And I say that because then they will start to learn how to teach. Even if they start teaching from a negative place, They're comparing themselves to other people and judging other people. So what? At least you're teaching. At some point, if you keep doing it and keep following your soul, you'll get rid of the judgment and you'll start teaching whatever it is you're supposed to teach. So that's the first thing that I've written down here, is that a sign of unconscious programming is judgment, which is projection. Second one I have written down is victim mentality. The neo-Gnostics. Neo-Gnostics are people who believe that when you die, you will be faced by a false being of light that will try and trick you into going back down and being reincarnated. And they take out of context people's near-death experiences where their family or an angel or God or Jesus or Buddha have said to them, you must go back now, your work isn't done, and they choose to come back. The neo-Gnostic will say, no, you have to leave at all costs because this is a prison and this is punishment. So they have this victim mentality. They are in pain, deep emotional pain, and they are trapped in their unconscious defense mechanisms, still responding to whatever abuse they received at whatever level. And so they adopt a victim mentality. And as we talked about yesterday or the day before, we talked about how a victim mentality is something that you choose to do. At some point, there is a deliberate choice to take on the feeling of a victim. And somehow you are rewarded for that. You get some either positive or negative reinforcement for being a victim. It could be you're 4 years old and you cry. And somebody says, oh, and now you think, oh, every time I cry, somebody's going to give me a hug. So that's how I'm going to respond to problems. I'm going to cry. And then if I don't get love, I'm going to cry even harder. And then I'm going to eventually grow up to be somebody who says that there are false beings of light called archons who are trying to, and then they've planned out their victimhood not only in this life, but in the next one. So that's a victim mentality. It's a sign that you've been unconsciously programmed, and that is those people who talk about the archons on an unconscious level, they love the archons. They desperately want those archons, those false beings of light, to say, okay, I'm sorry, I love you, come here. That's what they desperately want. And that whole thing of, I'm not going to go to the light, that's a little kid having a temper tantrum, trying to get mommy to go, okay, I love you. So victim mentality is a defense mechanism trying to get love from your abusers. Once you realize that you are not a victim, that you are in fact an infinite being of light who has chosen to come here, then your parents, your whatever authority figure it is, you realize that you are beyond them. You don't have to run away from them. You don't have to kill them. You don't have to appease them. You have compassion for them, and you wish them to be able to find their own happiness. And then you are in a state of individuation. So judgment is one, victim mentality is another one. Hopelessness. Hopelessness is a choice, and it is an unnatural choice. Understandable. I haven't been through what you've been through, so I don't know what's making you feel hopeless. But hopelessness is a choice. And it is a choice that says, I'm going to let go of my belief that my highest experience will be connecting to my soul, and when I do that, the universe will respond with all of the resources I need to play this three-dimensional game to the end. And in order to get acceptance, you adopt hopelessness. I already talked about this. Here's a sign that you have unconscious program. Chronic pain, fibromyalgia, physical pain, tendinitis. They can't figure out what's going on with you. The doctor's like, I don't know, here, take this. Some kind of chronic pain. You stubbed your toe. and then somehow now your toe is in constant. I'm actually telling you something that happened to me. I have a thing in my one of my the big knuckle on my right big toe. It causes me pain sometimes, and there's no reason for it. And I know that that happens when I'm struggling with my unconscious resistance. My toe will hurt. So I'm giving you just an example. But a lot of people, they think, oh no, I have this injury. Really? What happened? Well, let's see. I was in a car accident, and then but that healed. Yeah, it healed up, but sometimes it acts up. Acting up is your brain finding the part of your body that you think is damaged. Because the truth of the matter is that when you break a bone, when you injure yourself, your body actually makes that wounded area stronger than before. So it's less likely actually to cause you problems. So chronic pain means that you have unconscious resistance that you have now somaticized. That's what somatic illness is. Psychosomatic means psyche to the body. You have somaticized the pain. Chronic fatigue. You just can't get out of bed. You just can't get anything done. And you've talked to doctors and you've changed your diet and you've gone vegan or you've gone something because you have chronic fatigue syndrome. And you know, if you can just get the right diet, or maybe if I get the right aromatherapy, or you know what, I can't be around certain chemicals, I'm sensitive about that. That is a sign that you have unconscious programming. Immune system illnesses. You have your immune system can't fire itself up to deal with just normal pathogens that are around you all the time. That shows that there's so much energy inside of you going towards fighting your conflict that in your mind you don't have the strength to even mount a defense against any illness. Age-related illnesses. This is an interesting one. You've noticed that people get older, they have this thing called arthritis. Do you even know what arthritis is? It just means inflammation of the joints. That's it. Inflammation of the joints. And inflammation of any kind is a sign that you don't have a good energy flow in your body. As my yoga teacher friend says, motion is lotion. Because your instinct will be, if you feel pain, oh, you know what, I'm not going to move that. I'm just going to stay here. Oh, I'm going to wrap some bandages around it. I see that all the time. You know, people that wrap, you know, like weightlifters, they wrap their joints. And that does nothing. Because the stress on the tendons is inside the arm. Wrapping it does nothing. But psychologically, they think I'm protecting my tendons if I wrap the outside of the body. So age-related illnesses, arthritis, things like that. Those things are real, but what ends up happening is that the decades of self-directed negativity that is the result of you in conflict with your own soul, that builds up in the body and in the bodily tissues. Dysfunctional relationships is another sign of unconscious programming. So you keep finding dysfunctional, abusive, hurtful, boring, unhappy, unfulfilling relationships, or you're chronically lonely. You're lonely. If you're not in a relationship, you're lonely, or you've been damaged so much that you can't tolerate the thought of a relationship. You can't trust people. Men are no good, women are no good, and you become a MGTOW red pill, or you become a feminist and you hate men, whatever it is. This is a sign of unconscious programming, your defense mechanisms. Poverty. Poverty is not something that's supposed to happen. By poverty, what I mean is not having the ability to eat, to have shelter, to have food, to have clothing. It's not about being, not having a lot of money. I've lived when I had almost no money and I was very comfortable. I've found in certain scenarios, if I wanted to live in a cabin in the middle of the woods, I could do that very inexpensively. I mean, if I want to live inexpensively, I can find, you can sit on a 10-acre cabin, surrounded by land and nature, and it'll be very inexpensive. Poverty is when you are not given the resources just to survive. This is a sign that you are not following your path, which means that you are following unconscious programming. You are burying your parents when your soul has said, "Follow me." Now, here is common signs of resistance. So what I've just shared with you are the signs of what happens when somebody is unconscious, meaning they're not aware of their true path and they're not taking action towards that. Let me give you an example of somebody who thinks they're conscious, but they're not. This happens all the time when I work with people, when I do career advice, and I know what questions to ask, and in every single time, they've been able to determine exactly what it is they're supposed to do, what their soul wants them to do. Then they immediately go to, well, I should earn some money first, or I can go and do this job, which I don't hate. But when I say, no, that's not, you told me that what you wanted to do was to be a break dancer, in Carnegie Hall. So go do that. Go do whatever it takes to make that happen. No, that's stupid. That's never going to happen. But what I'll do is I'll become a manager for break dancers. It gives you an idea how far out of touch I am. I'm using the word breakdance. So that is one of the things that happens when people struggle. Their unconscious programming kicks in and talks them out of it. But then there are the people that say, okay, Mahadeva, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do exactly what, because I don't tell them what to do. They tell themselves. And then I say, now you have to go do that. So they go and do it. And they commit to it. And if they're working with me, which is a good idea, then on a weekly or bi-weekly basis or whatever it is, I can help them stay committed to that. I can mirror back to them when their unconscious resistance is kicking in. But what ends up happening, the way you know that you are being successful, the way you know that you are overcoming and beating the reptilian programming that's been put into you. The way you know that is because you start working towards it and things start to happen, and then all of a sudden these very uncomfortable thoughts and feelings rise up, and they start to attack you. And you can't tell because they don't have a little ID badge on their forehead that says, oh, I'm unconscious resistance. Because if it was, you'd go, oh, well, yeah, I'm not going to listen to you. You're unconscious resistance. It comes to you. Your brain starts to think of, how can I convince this person to stop this crazy action towards their soul? How can I stop them? And it'll come at you with one strategy. It could be, what your parents did is they shamed you. So the first common sign of resistance is just feeling shame. I'm bad for doing this. This is wrong. One of the most favorite things I hear people say is, this is silly. This is stupid. This is, I'm not accomplishing anything. Those are signs of shame. It just means that your parents didn't want you doing that for whatever reason, because you were focusing on yourself probably and not on them. So they said, don't do that. That's selfish. That's stupid. That's dumb. Why are you doing that? I remember my sister saying that to me when she came and saw me. At that time, I was an actor, and that was me following my soul path at that time. And she came and saw me in my own theater, is the way I remember it, because I had a theater company in Hollywood. I was a co-founder of it, and I was acting on the main stage and all of that. And my sister came and saw it, and her response was, that was weird, which was a really difficult and painful thing to hear from, a family member. So she shamed me Now, she was operating from her unconscious programming, which was telling her, don't, it was making her uncomfortable because without realizing it, I was saying to my sister, hey, look at me, I'm following my soul and you're not. And so her response was to say, that was weird. And so your brain will do this to you. One of the first things that happens when you go after it is you will just feel shame. You'll feel bad. You won't even know why. It's just sometimes when I take risks, still to this day, this happened when I was doing the channeling. I was done with the channeling and I said goodbye and I turned off the recorder and I was filled with this just shame and self-criticism. And I felt really bad and I felt horrible and I didn't even know why. I've been around long enough to go, oh, I must have really taken some action towards, at very least symbolically for myself, moving more towards my soul because I'm feeling so horrible. I'm feeling so shameful. And it can get so bad, it can be a suicidal feeling. Like I want to blow my brains out. I want to die. That's how bad the shame can get. That's a sign of unconscious resistance. That's the sign for me that my brain is saying, stop, you have to go bury your parents. You're being a bad person. You're killing your parents. The parents will say that. You're killing me. They say that. Especially mothers. Or they'll say, you're killing your father, They love to do that. So that's a sign of resistance. And you have to have a sense of humor about this stuff because we take ourselves too seriously. So one of the first of the 7 signs of unconscious resistance is shame. Now, if you follow my instructions, if you're working with me or if you have another support group or another mentor who keeps you on track or you're able to somehow magically keep yourself on track, usually you need help. I do. I still have a therapist. I still have a group that I go to. I can't do it alone. And if you're learning from me, then it's probably good to do what I do. You got to have somebody in your corner. And usually not a family member, not a wife or a spouse, which is great if you have that. Needs to be somebody like a self-help group or a therapist or a counselor or a friend or a mentor or a teacher, somebody that is objective, that has your back unconditionally. All right, so that's the first one, just general shame. Now, if you're able to get past that, then your brain goes, okay, shame's not going to work. So we have to come up with another strategy. So here's another one. This is a very insidious one. This is where the brain says, okay, I'm not gonna act like an opponent. I'm gonna pretend that I'm trying to help. But what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to distract you so much that you'll stop. Or I'm gonna pretend that I'm helping, but I'll make it so difficult for you that you'll eventually give up. And that is called perfectionism. Perfectionism is self-abuse. Perfection is you're judging yourself all the time, but pretending that what you're really doing is I'm trying to get it right. And the judgment assumption behind that is if you don't do it perfectly, then anything you do is worse than nothing. That would be like saying, I'm dying of thirst, and I need to drink this water, but I don't quite know how to drink this, so I'm going to spill water all over myself. Some of it will get down in my throat. And you're sitting there going, I'm not sure that I can drink that without spilling it. And if I spill it, that's worse than not drinking it at all. So I just won't drink anything, and then you die of thirst. Perfectionism is trying to get you to stop. It's trying to get you so wrapped up and so squozen by your own self-criticism that you do nothing. And then you say things like, well, if I can't do it right, I'm not going to do it at all. Which is one of the most ridiculous things anybody's ever said. Anybody who's been successful in life has made far more mistakes and failed far more times than they've succeeded. So perfectionism is great because by perfectionism, you're doing it and trying to be better as you go along. great. But if your perfectionism is so intense that it prevents you from taking action because, well, I have to do it right, otherwise mommy and daddy won't love me, then that is a sign that your brain is actually trying to stop you, but it's pretending to help you. The next one is just insecurity. You just don't feel secure. You don't feel confident. This is a very common one. And it's associated also with perfectionism. People will know what they're supposed to do, and they've never done it before. Working with clients, something like that. They've never done it before. And the only way to get experience is by doing it. And even though they know that, their brain will then say, wait a minute, you need to get another what's the word I'm looking for? You need to get another certification. So you need to take another course. You need to get another license. You need to get, you need to go get another degree. You need to keep, because, you don't have enough experience and people aren't going to like what I do. And so insecurity is another way. And again, it sometimes comes at you pretending to help you. No, I want you to do good. I just want you to get, a certificate. If you have a certificate that you can put on the wall, that'll make it okay. But if you don't have that, then, nobody's going to take you seriously. And I always remind my students that say that, I say, nobody has given me a certificate in thunder wizardry. I don't have any licenses. I don't have any certifications as a counselor, as a spiritual teacher. I haven't been, none of that. I'm completely self-taught. I'm completely self-certified. And people, treat me like an authority figure. So what does that tell you? So don't worry about the insecurity. That's just your brain trying to talk you out of it. I'm trying to tell you these uncomfortable feelings will come. You must expect that they will come. When you first start out doing whatever it is you're supposed to do, that's when you're going to get the worst opposition from people. That's when people are going to come at you. When I started this channel, I was very hurt and surprised because there were heathens and pagans, and they just came after me and started tearing me new ones. How dare you say this? How dare you say that? And it was, it was really shocking for me. And I was constantly getting harassed all the time, getting trolled all the time on the channel. And that is when you first put yourself out there, the first thing that happens is your brain's going to try and talk you out of it by manifesting to you, because it's your own self-directed negativity. You're going to manifest it in your external world. You'll say, see, I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not meant to do this. I can't take the criticism. Eventually, they will fade away. But I'm trying to help you understand that if you follow your soul, you must expect that you will have unconscious resistance. And the feelings are painful. They're no fun. Again, I use weightlifting as an example because you actually go and you're pushing the weight until it hurts and it burns and you can't do it anymore. You look for that because that means you're going to grow. If we knew that about ourselves, that, oh my God, I'm having unconscious resistance, I'm going to be super successful, and we knew that, we would be so much more able to tolerate this. But your brain is very crafty, and it is, to its credit, it's trying to protect you. And so it's using every opportunity to try and distract you, lie to you, seduce you. It'll try anything it can to get you to stop. And so you have to expect that, because you're going beyond your human limitations, and your human limitations don't want that because it feels like death. And again, what is death? The easiest way to kill an infant is not to love it. So when you are going after your soul, you will have feelings of, I'm not going to be loved, and it will be intolerable. And it will manifest in all these different ways, but it all comes down to that. And what you're really doing by following your soul is you are loving yourself. And you are tapping into the true love of the universe. And then the more that you do that, the more comfortable you will be with yourself. You will no longer need other people's approval. You will no longer need other people's love. And you'll like being in your own company. And not because you're trying to hide from people, but just because you like being surrounded by the infinity within and the connection you have. And this happens over time. So you have shame, perfectionism, insecurity, unworthiness, confusion. This is a big one. Confusion is a really good one. When first your brain tries to shame you out of it, that doesn't work. You still keep going. It says, okay, let's try something else. Then it pretends to try and help you, so it then becomes perfectionistic and says, no, you have to do it more perfectly. And you go, you know what, I did my best. That's all I'm supposed to do. And your brain goes, oh, that didn't work. And then it starts throwing insecurity at you and says, you know what, nobody's going to like you. You know, you don't know what you're doing. You're going to be hurting people if you don't get it the way you're supposed to. And then you figure out, nope, that's not my job either. My job is just to do my best, and the universe does the rest. And your brain goes, okay, well, you're not worthy of it. You figure that out. That's all wrapped up in the same thing. But then a new one is confusion. Should I do this one or should I do that one? I mean, if I do this one, but that one, if I do that, but if I did that one, but then this one, okay, I'm not going to do either of those. I'm going to do that one. Then you go do that one, you go, no, I'm going to go do this one instead. This happens very often with mantra. I'll give them a mantra and I'll say, according to your chart, this is a mantra that you can do for the rest of your life. And then I'll get emails from them a week later, a month later. Should I try this mantra? Should I try this mantra? Should I try this mantra? And I say, that is your unconscious resistance trying to get you out of doing something on a consistent basis, because the growth is going to happen from you doing something consistently. So at this point, do that one mantra for at least 1 year. Then see if you want to do another one for another year. Confusion. We talked about projection. Projection is a sign of unconscious programming, but it's also a reaction that you can have when you are having resistance. Because this is a response to your shame, your insecurity. You will project onto others, and then you end up comparing yourself to other people that are doing the same thing as you. And hopelessness again shows up again, common signs of resistance. And confusion and hopelessness I'm putting them on there because you don't really know what it is. It's just, you just feel hopeless and you don't know why. You feel confused and you don't know why. That's your brain kind of at a last ditch effort. You're not responding to any of the specific, mind fucks it's giving you. So you respond to the general one of just, I don't like the way it feels. And that is a very common thing. People ask me all the time, how can I overcome this feeling? How can I avoid this feeling? I mean, I might even get it on here today. You see, if you've been following the channel, it happens all the time. And what is it that I say every time? I say, who said you were supposed to overcome the feeling? The only thing I've told you to do is take the action regardless of your feeling. If you can find a way to overcome the feeling, great, I'm happy for you. Nobody likes feeling uncomfortable, and I don't want you to be uncomfortable. But it's just a feeling. It doesn't mean anything. It has no significance. The only thing that matters is you figured out what you want to do when you felt inspired. You don't feel inspired anymore, but you know that's what you're supposed to do. So you go and do it, and you know that some resistance, some crappy feeling is going to show up and try and talk you out of it. You don't stop no matter what. Like my ancestors say, those who die in battle go to Valhalla, not those who never have any fear go to Valhalla. No, because that's not reality. When you are inspired to go to war, we can destroy those evil barbarians, and then you go to war and you realize that barbarian is really big and he's mad and he's got a big giant axe, and if he comes anywhere near me, he's gonna cleave me in half. All of a sudden, I don't feel so inspired to go to war anymore. I think I'm gonna sit this one out until I feel better. And the general says, if you don't go out there, I'm gonna kill you myself. And no matter how you feel, you go to war. And if you die in battle, you go to Valhalla. If you are willing to die, and because it feels like you're dying, and there have been times in my life when I was willing to be homeless. I wasn't going to go work at Walmart. I was going to do what I wanted to do, and I was going to do everything in my power, and I wasn't going to stop. And even if that meant death, I was going to do it. And every time that I do that, I always end up better off than I was before. Because when you're willing to die in battle, you go to Valhalla. So Valhalla in this case means you're better off than you were before. But it doesn't mean that you don't have difficulty or pain or challenges. All right? So hopefully that makes some sense to you. I'm happy to take any questions. Before I get into the questions, remember that this is a channel that I have devoted all my free time to, and I'm happy to do it. That's my choice. And if you want the highest level teachings that I have, which are energy practices that will give you added extra ability to overcome your unconscious resistance, you can go here to Warrior 90-Day Challenge, click on play, and just do the practices. It's a unified energy practice that does, I don't believe there's any other practice in the world, perhaps in history, that's ever had this unified energy practice, which is Chi, Kundalini, and the almost completely unknown power of the lightning power of the heart mind, which surrounds the soul. It is literally the power of lightning that protects your heart chakra and your soul, and it is normally self-contained unless you know secret but very simple movements that unlock it and release it throughout the body and the mind. You do all three of these things and follow my instructions, I guarantee you will have an experience. Go to Warrior 90-Day Challenge, Lightning Qigong. If you want to see all my books, you go to courses.thunderwizard.com and all the other things that I offer there. And then if you want the most powerful energy practice, in my experience, on this planet, you can go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com. And of course, you have all the free stuff. Again, the bottom line is you got to do the work. You've got to do the practices. Coming on here, listening to me talk, as smart as I am, I don't think that is going to have the ability to give you what you need. You need the practices. Please do them, because when you do that, you vibrate on the quantum field that all consciousness resides in. And when you raise your consciousness and your vibration up to the next level, every conscious entity in the universe is stimulated by that, and it makes it that much easier for all of us to become aware and evolve to the next state. So do the work, whatever it is. All right, having said that, now I will be happy to look at your questions. If you have a question, please write the word question or type the word question in all caps. Just the word question in all caps, then type your question however you want. I only want questions and honest feelings. An honest feeling is I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm happy. Anything beyond that, if you don't follow those instructions, and that's okay if you don't because you don't know any better if you're new, I will most likely psychoanalyze you. And unless you want that, I suggest just, again, follow my instructions. All right, let's get to them. Any questions? Let's go up to the top here. Thundra Staves Rangel, she's first out of the gate. She shows up and she says, good evening, Mahadeva. And so you should go check out her website, thundra.thunderwizard.com. And she is one of my certified Vedic astrologers, and she can give you a mantra. She can take a look at your chart. She's a better astrologer than me. She's got other things. She's a distance healer, and I don't even know what else she is. She's a teacher and shaman and counselor in her own right. And then we've got Vincent.thunderwizard.com. He says good evening, and you can go to his website, Vincent.thunderwizard.com. He is also Gebo the Shaman. He has his own brand of shamanism and healing, and he is one of my certified Vedic astrologers, and he's even, again, a better astrologer than I am. But he's learned how to do all the things that I think are most important in a reading, so go check him out. Thunderwizard.com and Vincent.thunderwizard.com. If you want me to do the same thing for you that I just did for them, you can go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com. And if you pass the very simple tests, I will put you up on my website. And if you show up, I will do the same thing. I will promote you so that people can go to your website and get some readings from you. All right. Riho Rasta. Riho Rasta question. Do you squeeze the perineum when you do the practices? So Riho, I just have to tell you, my instinct for you is it would be very beneficial for you if you didn't do so many different things. Now, I don't know what you're doing. It's none of my business. I don't need to know. But I would recommend that you really find the one practice or the one group of exercises that you do. And as I said about mantra, stick with that for a year without changing, without getting something else, doing something else. That's the feeling that I have for you. So you asked, do you squeeze the perineum when you do the practices? All of the practices? Obviously not. I don't squeeze the perineum on all of the practices. I teach people how to do certain meditations, and there are some that I like, the Hool breath, for example, or the heaven earth meditation. There are times when I have said for people to squeeze the perineum. But I don't focus on it because it's not that big of a deal. And, if I'm working with somebody and I think it's going to be helpful, especially if they're a guy and they're trying to stay celibate, then that can be helpful. So the short answer is no, you don't squeeze the perineum on the practices, meaning all of them. Are there some that you can do? Yes. I don't bother telling people to do it because, again, I'm not very dogmatic about that like some people are. Mr. West, welcome to the channel. If you have a question, write the word question. And again, if you're new to the channel, the best thing to do is to make sure that you ask a question based on what I've been talking about in the lecture, or to go onto my channel, spend some time watching the videos, watching the playlists, knowing what I teach, and ask questions based on what I teach. I tend to get cranky when people ask me questions that aren't related to what I teach. And if you're new to the channel, there's a good chance that you probably don't have a question based on what I teach yet. So if you want to avoid annoying me, then make sure that you put some effort into finding out what it is I teach. Having said that, everybody's welcome to ask a question as long as you're willing to hear my answer. Una Veluspa question. I was in an incubator alone for my first month of life. What do you suggest to overcome this trauma? Guess what? So was I. I was born at least 6 weeks early, perhaps 2 months early, and I wasn't supposed to live. And for some incredibly stupid reason, I don't know if they still do it, I think they do, but in 1963, they put me in a fish tank and pumped oxygen in it. And I was not being touched and held by human beings. The worst thing you can do to a newborn infant is stick them in a fish bowl where they can't see, feel, or hear any other human beings. It was really, really bad. And the doctor came to my parents and said, he's not going to live. He's going to die. And then my mother, according to her, she said she went to God and said, I will give him to you. To which she said she heard God say, then he's mine. Keep your hands off. And then I survived that. And then they said, okay, we're pumping all this oxygen in there, but if we keep the oxygen at this level, he'll go blind. But if we turn the oxygen down, he may die. And thankfully, my dad said, well, better he live and be able to see, so turn the oxygen down. And obviously, I lived. And apparently, I'm doing just fine. So what do you suggest to overcome this trauma? The same thing that I do for myself. ThunderWizard.com, do the practices, do the energy practices, follow my teachings. There isn't a specific thing that I'm aware of to do that. But the first thing I would do is I would stop indulging in any feelings of victim mentality that you might be using. You might be using that poor me, I was stuck in a fish tank for the first month of my life. Oh my God, I'm so damaged. I mean, I would get rid of that. As true as it may be, it doesn't help you. So I would examine whatever victim mentality you have about that. It's a very real thing. There are some things I can't tolerate. I can't tolerate hearing newborn infants cry. I can't tolerate it. It's the most frightening, horrible thing for me to listen to. I hate it. I can't tolerate seeing kids in incubators, like, I don't know why they do this, but sometimes on the news they'll show some kid in an incubator, some little infant, newborn infant, and my body goes into shock. I consciously don't remember any of it, but obviously my body does. So doing things that nurture you, doing energy work, because your nervous system, it is so important for little babies to be touched and held, because it actually stimulates the nervous system and the nerves and the body, and what happens with little kids that don't get touched? They can't stand being touched. I couldn't stand sleeping next to somebody. Like, even if I was married to them or dating them, I couldn't stand sleeping next to somebody, hearing them breathe, feeling their vibrations. I could feel and hear all of their thoughts. It drove me crazy. Until I fell in love with somebody whom I felt so safe with that I loved sleeping next to her. And I think all of this has to do with my nervous system not getting the stimulation that it needed. So doing things that's healthy for your nervous system, doing things like, the stuff I teach, really. If you and I share that, then do what I do. So Una, are you doing the practices? Are you doing the meditations? Are you doing the celestial qigong? If you are, great. If not, do it. By the way, you're not going to find what I teach anywhere else. Some of the general stuff here and there, you might find some parts of it somewhere, but you won't find this anywhere else. The only other people that teach what I teach are people that have worked with me. Other than that, you won't find this combination of stuff anywhere. I think it's the best combination of energy practices there are. I'm biased, but in other words, don't talk yourself out of it. Today is your day of opportunity. Make use of it. That's not just to Una, that's to everybody. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I had a date today. Ooh, you Casanova, you. And before the date, I judged the hell out of myself. I did qigong and released the emotions. This was the best date yet, and both of us enjoyed each other's company. Wow, I am envious of you, my friend. I can't remember the last time I was on a date. Good for you. What else? Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I really liked this girl and found that she really enjoyed me sharing my honest feelings. How awesome. You can't get any better than that. Somebody wants to listen to your feelings. That's awesome. Good for you, my friend. Moon Priestess, honest feeling. I've been sad and really joyful lately. So you're a human. You're alive. Awesome. Also really energetic. This has to do with the immortal practice and you mean the hool breath? It says guilt breath. But I think, your computer typed that instead of hool breath. So if you're new to the channel, the entry-level practice, which is the main practice, which will initiate you into the energies and deities that I work with, is the hool breath. So So you can just type that in anywhere and you will find it. And the most powerful free practice that I offer is the Summoning the Immortals practice. It is a practice that by all rights should not be given out to anybody publicly for free. If you've done it, you understand why. It's one of those things that should only be given to people after they've been initiated. But we live in special circumstances, and I want you guys to know how powerful this stuff is. So instead of listening to me and hearing me say it's the most powerful practice on earth, now go subscribe or pay money, I'm giving you one of the most powerful practices on this planet so that you can decide for yourself whether or not this is a path you want to follow. Specifically the Lightning Qigong or the Mao Shan practices, which I only give out on thunderwizard.com. That is the Awakening the Immortals Qigong. You can find that on my channel if you look in the playlists. So you got to get up off your ass, go to my YouTube channel and look for it. Don't ask me to give you the link. You're perfectly capable of finding it yourself. What else? Let's see. Honestly, I've been sad, joyful lately. Also really energetic. That's to do with the immortal practice and the Hool breath. Also did a rune reading on myself the other day, and one that popped up was the yew tree yuhuaj. That is the rune of transformation, which is also the rune of conflict. So when transformation comes up, see, there's two main runes of transformation, although all of the runes are transformative. Two of the runes that focus on transformation is Hagalaj and Yuhuaj, and they're directly opposite each other. If you read my book, Rune Shamanism or Advanced Rune Shamanism, you'll see the rune wheel and where they're placed. And Hagalaj is deliberate self-examination. So it's transformation, but you choose to do it. You choose to look at yourself, and of course that creates healing. And then Yuhuaj is unintended transformation. So in other words, you feel like it's happening to you. And you have a choice of either surrendering to that transformation, in which case it will be very empowering and maybe intense. If you fight it, then you will be in a state of conflict. The transformation will come, but it will be challenging. In many cultures around the world, the way somebody knows that they are a shaman is because they will have a dream or a vision or a near-death experience where the gods or the ancestors take them, chop them into pieces, throw them into a cauldron, and then pull them out whole again. And when they pull them out of the cauldron, they have shamanic ability. Nobody likes to be chopped into pieces. It has to do with the destruction of your attachments. It has to do with a complete psychic change. And many times shamans go crazy. I certainly went through periods of, I came this close to actually losing my mind numerous times. So this is a very powerful rune. And if it comes up, it means that transformation is here for you or coming for you. And the thing to do is to embrace it and surrender to it. And then it will be a much more pleasant process. So congratulations. I've been crying to being joyful and very energetic off and on, and just letting myself cry when I feel it coming instead of pushing it down. Good for you. That's the way to do it. I'm glad that's helpful. Goes on to say, I remember I used to cry once in one day, and I would ruin my day. At the time, I thought I was ruining it. I was blaming other people for my sadness, but now I realize I was doing it to myself. But now I just let it flow without trying to control it, and also look at myself deeply, can understand myself better. Congratulations. Keep doing the good work. Consider having other people to do it with. So here are the options. You can go and find a group of people to share your life with, share your experiences, who will have your back. You can work with a teacher, you can work with a therapist, you can work with a mentor, or you can teach. So teaching is another way of not doing this process alone. So if you've gone through that, maybe you should be a teacher or a healer or a guide. Consider that. I have that feeling for you that it will be helpful for you to not be alone in this process. Kim B, question. What if the light is like a giant bug zapper and when you go into it, it erases all of your memories? Well, what if it's like a giant donut and it tastes sugary? What if it's like riding in a VW bus? What if it's like, what do you mean, what if? What do you want? How am I supposed to answer that? So all you're telling me is that you're afraid of the unknown. The truth of the matter is that you have gone through this death process thousands of times. You just don't remember. In this lifetime, you've chosen to indulge in a fear mentality. And again, why are you doing that? You're doing that because on an unconscious level, you think you need to do that to protect yourself and to get the abusers to love you. Because if you allow yourself to remember that the light is the most blissful, orgasmically wonderful experience that you've ever had, then you will individuate from your abusive parents and you don't want to hurt them. You want to go bury your parents. So, come on. An honest question is, you're asking me something you think that I have the answer to. What if questions are not honest questions? What you're wanting me to do is you're wanting me to co-sign your victim mentality, and I have too much respect for you to do that. I'm not going to do it. So that's not going to happen. Okay? All right. And when you die, you will remember everything. The only time you forget is when you incarnate, and the only reason you do that is because if you had every single one of your memories, again, you'd know how the game wouldn't have any meaning for you, it wouldn't be any fun. So you choose to forget. Every time you go to sleep and you dream, your soul goes back, you remember everything, you talk to your soul friends, you come back into your body when you wake up. You're making too big a deal out of it. I understand the fear, but I'm not going to co-sign it for you. So you've been on my channel for a while, you've gotten something from it. If you want the most out of what I offer, follow my suggestion. And one of my most powerful suggestions is to drop all victim mentality because it's a choice. Make the choice to trust. Trust is not a feeling. Trust isn't, I feel like I'm going to get what I want. Trust is, I have no idea if they're going to hurt me or give me what I want, but I'm going to choose to make myself vulnerable. I'm going to choose to trust. Choose to trust the universe and, stop being a scared infant of a bug zapper. It's silly. And it's silly because you are infinite. The idea that you're a tiny little bug, you're not. You're infinite. You are greater than anything in this universe. So that could only happen unless you chose to make that happen. All right. And this whole idea of being sent back, you're never sent back. It's always your choice to go back. Always. The way to understand it is those people who have near-death experiences where they go and they have a life review and they see Buddha or God or their grandfather or whoever it is, and then they're told, it's time for you to go back now. What that is that is their own projection. Because they need to experience that way. They choose to experience that way. You see Buddha when you die, that's your projection. You see Jesus when you die, that's your projection. You see Shiva, you see a light, you see me, you see anything. It's your projection because that's what you need. In fact, I am your projection right now. Because you are all here because I'm telling you what you already know. In fact, you are telling me what to tell you. Your soul is telling me to tell you the truth, to give you the knowledge that you need to remember who you are. And you need to see it and hear it in this package. So you've manifested me in this way. You want to manifest a bug zapper, go right ahead. That's not something I want to manifest, but if you need to feel that so that you'll be able to choose to come back and keep doing it. And you can play that game with yourself as many times as you want. Completely up to you. If it works for you, so much the better. That's not the way I would do it, but I'm not you. Thunderous Dave's Rangel question. For a decade and a half when I do Gong, do you mean Qigong? I have debilitating carpal tunnel symptoms. Any ideas what this could be related to emotionally? Yeah. It means that you're becoming conscious, and that carpal tunnel syndrome, which is absolutely impossible. Carpal tunnel syndrome is just another fancy word of saying tendinitis. Itis means inflammation. Tendinitis is the inflammation of the tendons. And you know what's interesting about carpal tunnel syndrome? Who are the people that normally get carpal tunnel syndrome? People who do data entry. People who do some kind of repetitive task. But they can do repetitive tasks at home as long as it's for them. But when they go to work and they have to guess, the thing that they hate doing is going to that crappy job, that data entry job, or that threading the needle job, or whatever it is, that dumb crappy job that they don't ever want to do. And so they're so rageful at that their rage goes into the thing, so they have an excuse to wear a brace. I can't go to work. I have carpal tunnel syndrome. And then to take pain pills and to stay at home and feel sorry for yourself. So carpal tunnel syndrome is nothing more than TMS. So you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Thundra, tension myositis syndrome. Go check it out. It's a very real thing. When you are in internal emotional conflict, when you have unconscious conflict that you are unable or unwilling to look at, your brain shuts off oxygen to the nerves and the tissues, and it will pick a certain spot. And if you are able to go deep enough, that spot will have psychological, symbolic significance. You don't have to figure it out to get over TMS. But TMS means that you are unconsciously in conflict about following your soul, and you're trying to talk yourself out of it, and pain is a very good way to do it. Listen, if I listen to every single little pain, I mean, I still have some TMS right here. And it was exactly when I became aware that I had to leave Australia. And what is it? It's carrying a suitcase. It's right there. That's where all the pain is, right? Where if I were to pick up a suitcase, that's where it would be the most painful. And I just don't pay attention to it. And it's slowly starting to go away, which is the opposite. If I went to the doctor and I said, I have tendinitis right here, he would say, oh, well, you can't go to the gym. You can't work out, lift weights, because that'll inflame your tendons even more. Here's some pain pills. No, you know what I do? When I go to the gym, I lift as hard as I can, and guess what? The pain goes away. When I'm lifting, the pain is gone. It's because I'm getting blood flow to those nerves and those tissues that my brain is shutting off blood flow to. And so it's a very minor, just a lack of oxygen, and it makes it inflamed. But there's nothing wrong with it. So what that means is that Qigong has some significance to your unconscious. Something in your unconscious is coming to the surface, and your defense mechanisms are giving you carpal tunnel syndrome, because there's nothing that Qigong, I mean, it's the least impactful movement there is. There's nothing about Qigong that would cause carpal tunnel syndrome. The theory behind carpal tunnel syndrome is that doing the repetitive actions, you're destroying the tendons and they're inflamed, which of course is not possible. Definitely Qigong is the last thing that's going to inflame the tendons. So this is somaticizing. You're somaticizing your unconscious. And if it were me, I would do it even more. I would say, well, there must be something that Qigong is releasing, so I'm going to do it more. I'm not saying that you have to do that. You do whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. But that's one of the things I would do. So what could this be related to? I don't have the answer to that. Qigong deals with connection to energy, connection to the unconscious, connection to energy represents love from the universe. So if you get love from the universe, guess where you're not getting love from? You're not getting it from your dead parents. You're getting it from the universe. That's anathema. You're not getting it from Jehovah. You're a bad girl. How dare you? You're killing your parents every time you get love from the universe. Every time you do Qigong and you feel you have value simply because you exist, because Qigong will always give you that feeling. That's why I do it. Qigong never lets me down. Whenever I do it, I always feel loved. I always feel connected. I always feel empowered. Because the universe is my mother. Shakti loves me unconditionally. I could go out and commit murder. Not that I'm going to, but I could do that and then do Qigong and she would be there and she would love me. She has no judgment on me. Your human mother may have some judgment on you. Your human parents might have some judgment on you. So those are some things. I don't know if that's the issue, but that's definitely one. Doing Qigong connects you to the Fehu of the universe, the energetic support, which is connected to money. People who do Qigong, unless they choose not to, you're inviting money, resources, love into your life. Qigong brings all of that. So I would say, take a look at all those things and see, how you're breaking the rules by loving and giving and providing to yourself. And it's so intense that, like you said, you just start doing it and then you feel all this pain. So, anyway, that's my take on it. I could be wrong, but meditate on that and see how much of that works for you. Do what you can. Do a little bit at a time and ease into it. I don't know. Jameson-san, honest feeling. Brother in anger told my dad why I am no longer taking care and gone. Now he isn't responding to treatment, has 2 weeks to live. If all stops, I feel guilty and want to help him pass in peace. It's not your job. I feel for you. That's an awful situation to be in, and that was an awful thing. Your brother did an awful thing. Extremely abusive. The person that did that to your dad is your brother, not you. I mean, did you say that to your dad? No, you didn't say that to your dad. And your dad is choosing to, what? Obviously, your dad's trying to punish you. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to make myself die because, that's his gift to you on his way out. None of this is your responsibility. It's easy for me to say because I'm not in it. But, again, you didn't say that to your dad. Your brother did. And your brother, that was a homicidal act that your brother did towards his own father and towards you. I'm sure you've heard of the term triangulation. Your brother was triangulating. It's a sign of an extremely unconscious, destructive, narcissistic individual. It's a very narcissistic act at the very least. So this is another reason for you to separate even more. If they're angry with you, your desire to go and help him pass in peace is coming from your need to get his love and approval. And if they're angry with you and that's how he wants to pass, unless you want to, you have my permission. If you want to just let them go, do their own thing, and if he dies, he dies, and you move on with your life. You've moved all the way over to Australia, which is symbolic as well as practical. You can't get much farther away in the English-speaking world than Australia. I know because I was there. It takes a long time to get there. It takes a commitment to get there, and it takes a commitment to get out of there. So once you're there, that's like it's like I'm away from all of it, and that was a decision you made. I say this because I know Jameson. He's my apprentice. Yeah, I understand. I know that you might not be able to control those feelings that you have, but you absolutely have my permission. If you want to just write them off, they're responsible for not talking to you and being angry with you and wanting to act out and childishly hold their breath until they die. And you have another reason to go, you know what, I'm done with you. I'm going to live my own life. You guys do whatever the hell you want. You have no responsibility. The people who are your family are the people who treat you with respect and love. The people who treat you abusively and try to make you feel bad, those aren't your family, even though you're physically related to them. Okay? So connect to people who love you and make you feel good, and make them your family, and let those destructive, abusive, mean people, let them harm each other, and you can choose to whatever degree you want to be connected to them. It's completely up to you. You didn't ask for my advice, but there it is anyway. Okay, Kim B, if you're going to write a question, please write a question. I don't know what this means. Lessons learned, question mark. I don't know what that means. You say, does that still mean you have a victim mentality? What are you talking about? Me now? Are you asking, do I have a victim mentality? If that's what you're doing, that's a very passive-aggressive thing. I've obviously said something that makes you uncomfortable. If you're talking about yourself, you're not asking a clear question. Ask a question trying to get me to answer you. You may be having a lot of feelings going on. Don't take them out on me, even if it's passive-aggressive. I'm here to help you. So if there's something I said that pushed your buttons, I'm sorry that you have that feeling, but I'm not sorry for telling you the truth in love as best as I can come up with. It's up to you to decide what you want to do with it. Even if you decide that I'm the wrong person to be telling you anything, that's completely up to you. You say, couldn't not going into the light be choosing? Okay, so what this is about is you really attach to this idea. You really want to have the right to reject the light. If you want to reject it, go ahead. What do you want from me? You want me to tell you that that's the right thing to do? I mean, you already, before you asked the question, you already knew what my very strong belief and assumption is. You've heard me say it a bunch of times. Why are you asking me that? If I tell you that if you walk off that cliff, gravity will pull you to your death, and it will happen night or day, 100 years from now or 100 years ago, coming to me and saying, yeah, but what if I have secret wings? I mean, it's not going to change my belief. So why are you asking me questions you already know what my answer is? If you honestly believe that, and it's that important to you, you have my permission to go and listen to anybody who will tell you that. And there's no shortage of people that will tell you that. I firmly believe, because it was my experience, again, I can't prove it to anybody, but I had an out-of-body experience and I went to the light. And I can tell you that the light is the most blissful, orgasmic, an amazing experience. And it is, I can't even put it into words. The bliss and the love, and it feels like you're just having this huge, giant soul orgasm, and you become bigger than the cosmos. It's just amazing and unbelievable. So I would never tell people to not go into the light. Why would you not go into that? It's a little bit frightening at first, but that's only because my limitations were being blown apart as I became everything. And then I became this, first this smile grew and it went over my whole face, and then my body just completely exploded into this orgasmic bliss, and I just kept saying, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. I've been there. Can't prove it to you, but I've been there. So I can tell you from my experience that the light is none of those things. But the real question is, here's the interesting thing, and I want you to think about this. Why don't you feel relieved? Because the idea that the light is this bug zapper or this archon or something that wants to harm you, that can't be a pleasant thought. And you know that that's where you're going to go because you keep hearing. That's what happens when you die. You go to the light. You even hear it from the people who tell you not to go there. Oh, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to see a light. Don't go under the light. So you already know that the first thing that's going to happen is the light is going to appear. And it can't be a good feeling to think that that light is going to harm you. Like you call it a bug zapper. You think you're a bug. The only reason you said that is because you think you're a bug. You think you're this tiny little insignificant insect that deserves to be squished or zapped. You wouldn't come up with that metaphor if you didn't believe that, if you didn't feel that way. So why isn't it that when I tell you that the light is there and if you go into that you'll have this orgasmic freeing experience, why isn't that pleasant for you to hear? Why doesn't that make you feel relieved? Oh my God, thank you. I was so worried about that. No, you need to ask me a question. You know what I'm going to answer. And then when I tell you the same thing, you know I'm going to tell you, you then need to double down. You need to argue with me about it. Just think about that. And if you want to reject the light, reject the light. You'll be okay. You'll end up coming back here immediately. You'll be immediately brought back here. Of course, it'll be your choice. You will think, oh no, it happened to me. Oh no, I was thrown back. But really what's happening is you're choosing to do it. Because that's what your soul wants. If you don't want your own soul to lie to you like that, then become conscious. Drop the victim mentality. Work through whatever pain, because that question I already know. You were damaged as a kid. I already know. Because kids who were loved don't think like that. Kids who were minimized, neglected, abused, instrumentalized, traumatized, unloved, shamed, they think that way. Because this is your story. This is your childhood unconscious story, and you're projecting it into your afterlife. And you have an agenda because you think by believing this, you're actually going to get love from your parents. I know it doesn't make any sense to you, but being a victim, buying into any victim mentality is a defense mechanism that you think will bring eventually your parents will love you and accept you. Ah, good, you're beating yourself up. Okay, now I'm going to love you. And if you accept what I'm telling you, you'll think you're unconscious, your parents will hate you. And you can't tolerate that, even though you feel that they were abusive to you. You can't tolerate it. You can't tolerate the thought of them not loving you. That's what all this is about. How do I know? Because I've been there. I know exactly where you're at because I've been there. Let's see, what else? Jameson-san question, is it cruel of me to not give him solace? He doesn't want solace. He wants to abuse you, Jameson. If he wanted, if he wanted solace from you, he would give you solace. And he doesn't do that. He's rejecting you. He's angry. He's hurt. And he's going to take it out on you. And again, you've got to decide what the right thing to do here is. You're struggling with yourself. So let's just get it down to what the question is about. And you don't need to answer me. I want you to meditate on it and get honest. Do you want to go see him? You personally, will you benefit? Will you feel empowered and loved and better if you go see him? You're talking to somebody, listen, I let my mother die. I mean, she was okay. She was taken care of, but I didn't go see her. She was old and she was, whatever that is, senile. She was old and senile, and I just didn't want to go see her. You know, the last time that I saw her, she was abusive to me, and I just decided I'm done. And every time I saw her, I was always worse than I was now, you know. that my life, the less connected to where I was, the better my life was, and I was happier. And so she died alone. I mean, she didn't die alone. She had people around her, but she didn't have any of her kids around her, except for maybe my sister. And I don't regret that choice. My sister just recently passed away. She passed away very quickly and unexpectedly. I don't know if I would have gone to see her either, but I don't have anything negative about her, other than she, I think, she had been destructive to herself, but she wasn't all that abusive to me. And her, I'm in Florida, I'm in the United States, and she died in Oregon, and they're having a memorial for her in a couple weeks. And if I really wanted to, I could get on a plane and go see the memorial, but I'm not going to. I don't want to. I've said everything I need to say to my sister, and it just doesn't empower me. I haven't seen her in I saw her once in the past 40 years. I've seen her once in the past 40 years, so we weren't all that close. In other words, it's okay with me that I'm not part of that. You're all the way over in Australia. Look how much effort it took you to get over there. I know, because I'm monitoring on a daily basis what it takes to get there. I can't go there. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't go there. So you had to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to go over there. Not to mention the 18-hour flight, and probably you sat in coach, and had a bad back, and I mean, why do you want to do that to yourself, to somebody who's been damaging to you, abusive to you, who has teamed up with your brother to be abusive to you in the most, this is the thing about people like this. The most damaging time is when he's about to die. That's when people become loving. When people are on death's door and they want to, end their life, they always end up, they're the ones that say, let me see my family. I forgive you. I love you. They want to talk it all out and mend things. And what is your dad doing? He's ostracizing you, making you feel guilty, and he's teaming up with your brother to do it. They're doing it together. They're very abusive. If you want to, go do it. If you want my permission to not do it, I'm giving you permission to not do it. And if you want to talk to me about your feelings, when we have our sessions, I'll be happy to help you. I'm sure you've got your, other people, other advisors in your life. But it's completely up to you. You don't have to do anything. And you said it here, I feel I fulfilled my familial obligation. So your karma's done. There's something I've learned about karma, which is that when somebody's karmic relationship has come to an end, one of the people will become irrationally destructive to the relationship. And it won't matter what you say. No matter how hard you try, you'll be just incapable of reconnecting with them. That's the universe saying, no, you've paid your karma. It's time for both of you to go their way. Maybe your dad needs to do this to go on his way. That's another way to look at it. What else? Bunky time, if you have a question, write the word question. I'll be happy to answer it. If you have an honest feeling, write the word honest feeling, and I'll be happy to look at that as well. What else? Bunky time, do not crosstalk. Whatever Jameson-san is doing is none of your business. Do not jump in there and start a conversation with him about what he's talking to me about, okay? If you want to stay in my classroom, you got to learn how to be constructive. That is not a constructive thing to say, so I'm going to remove that. Don't do it again, please. Thunder Staves Rangel question, are there mantras to invoke Rahu? Yes, there are. There's quite a few. Not avatar of Vishnu mantra. Yes. Ardakayam Mahaviryam Chandraditya Vimardanam Simhika Garbu Sambutam Tam Rahu Pranamam Yaham. How's that for a Rahu mantra? Creative Virgo, honest feeling. For your calling me out on CODA, I have been rehearsing. What? What do you mean for my calling you out on CODA? All I've done is I've suggested that you do that. I don't know what you mean by calling you out on that. I suggest that you do that. I have been rehearsing replies. This is an honest feeling, so. Oh, all right. So you're thanking me for my honesty. Your back pain is easing. Okay, so I guess what I'm hearing you say is that you're grateful, or is it just that I called you out on it? Anyway, I'm not clear. And anyway, the point is that things are going well for you as a result of something that I said or suggested. And I am completely, totally with you. My apologies. I came at you a little hard in the beginning, but you're trying to tell me that you're doing what I suggested and it's helpful for you. So I'm happy to hear that. All right, Una Voluspa, congratulations. Keep it up. I look forward to that, which you mentioned. Nothing else. William Wallace threw down $10. Thank you, sir. Thunder Staves Rangel threw down $2. That's a whopping $12 that I didn't have before. And what did I do? I just dumped my thoughts and opinions on you, and you guys threw money at me. That's what happens when you follow your soul desire. You do whatever you would do anyway, and people throw money at you. So if you want to learn how to do that, I have a place where you can go. It's called career.thunderwizard.com. You can go check that out and find out how to make that happen for yourself. Or if you want, you can get an astrology reading from either Thundra or Vincent, and they will tell you what your Aruda is, which is how people need to see you in order to give you money. They can tell you what that is, and tell you a bunch of other stuff as well. All right, I got nothing else to say. Please check out all of the links here, and my strong recommendation for everybody is to please consider signing up for the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. Doing that is, I put together the most powerful, transformative practice I can. And on that subscription channel is when I'm going to keep uploading more and more things that, in my experience, are the most powerful, transformative things there are in the universe. I don't know anything more powerful than these things. And of course, it will empower me to keep doing what I've been doing, which is, uploading sometimes hours of video every day. I want to keep doing that, and I would love your help with that. So you can take a look at those options. Let's see what else. Kombucha cash. Unfortunately, the kombucha here is not nearly as good as it was in Australia. Australia had these really cool kombucha sodas that were just so good. I'm not too thrilled with the American kombucha. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, honest feeling. I'm happy that my life is improving despite my crazy ass feelings and judgments of myself. Good for you. You're living it, man. Keep it up. That's what you're doing is exactly what happens. That's it. It will get better. It will start to ease off. Your success and happiness and comfort will increase, and the discomfort will start to decrease. Of course, every now and then it pops back up when you hit a new level, but it's about the discipline of doing the practices and following my suggestions will change your neural pathways in your brain, but it has to be done consistently. And you are doing that. In the process, while the neural pathways are changing, all kinds of uncomfortable feelings come up. That's just the way it goes. When I go to the gym and I push myself really hard, I am sore for a couple of days, whatever body part it is. And I like it. So if we can understand that when we're feeling crazy and want to blow our brains out, we can go, man, I really must have improved because I'm feeling so horrible right now. Okay, that's it, my friends. I wish you all the best. Thank you for showing up, and stay safe as always, and I will see you all very soon. Remember, if you have a question for either myself or Mahadeva, the ascended master, or Ophiuchus, the Naga lord of the reptilians, address a question to any or all of us in the comments section in any of the videos. And if I find it inspiring, I will either answer the question or I will do a channeled reading in response to your question. All right, so that's it. I got nothing else. Last minute check to see if anything's there. Taiki, honest question. Okay, so I don't need an honest question. I just need a question or an honest feeling. But it's great that your question is honest. You say, I'm still confused about how to deal with confusion in the ascension process. So that's not a question, that is a feeling. It's very simple. You're new to the channel, right? Okay. So since you're new to the channel, here's my direct suggestion for you. What you're going to do is you're going to go on to my YouTube channel page, the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel page. You don't know how to do that, you just type in Thunder Wizard in the search bar of YouTube and you'll find my page. And then you're going to look in the playlists for the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. You're going to go and you're going to either listen to me read that book, and then you're going to do everything that's in that book. It's just a small little book. Or if you want, you can go spend the $10 or whatever it is and go get a Kindle or go get a paperback on Amazon of that book. And you're going to do everything that I suggest in that book. You can also look for Wealth Shaman. That was my very first book, and you're going to do the practices there. Then you're going to come here and you're going to go to thunderwizard.com and you're going to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You're going to try it out for a month, and if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. When you get there, you're going to find videos of me taking you through physical meditation, energy practices. You just press play and you follow along with me. I give you a morning practice, an afternoon and an evening practice, and I give you mantras and I give you things to do so you can figure out how to deal with the confusion, to master it, to overcome it. Okay, can I be any more clear than that? That's what you're going to do if what you really want to do is deal with confusion in the ascension process. And that's it. That's the best I have for you. Thank you all for showing up. I wish you all the best. I will see you all very soon. Take back your soul.